So the big question on everybody's mind this week was, how was WWE going to respond to AEW's Double or Nothing? Especially because from an internet point of view, everybody was talking about it and everybody was really excited. Most of the feedback was 2 thumbs up. I can't wait to see what All Elite Wrestling is going to do. Well, calm down, because WWE did have a response. It just may not really have been the response you were expecting. My name is Simon Miller, this is WhatCulture Wrestling, and it is Tuesday, and on Tuesdays, there's only one thing that we've got to do other than breathing, otherwise we die, and that's up those downs for Monday Night Raw. Raw started off with Kofi Kingston because WWE has absolutely no clue what the word wildcard means. It's not a wild card if it's the same people each and every week. And let's just address it now. Let's get it out the way. Yes, on Raw, there were 6 people from SmackDown. And the last time I checked, it was only meant to be 4 because we had R-Truth, we had Carmella, we had Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods was there, and again I'll explain how they all arrived. We had Roman Reigns, and we have Dolph Ziggler. Now, even if we do give R-Truth a pass, because he's the 24/7 champion, and I guess he should be allowed to go to both shows, given he does have to defend that championship all the time, this is still illogical. I refuse to give WWE a free pass because it's really not that hard. Down. Anyway, Kofi wants to prove that he's the best WWE champion ever, and he feels he can do that by beating Brock Lesnar, and then Seth Rollins came out and pretty much said the exact same thing, but neither of them want to wait around anymore. They want the Beast to get out there and let them know what he's going to do. And then Brock Lesnar did come out, and my word, this was the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. Brock's usual theme hit and he came out, but then it changed to some weird upbeat dance number as he once again held that Money in the Bank briefcase to his ear and acted like it was a boombox. But he went all out with this time. When he got in the ring, he was actually jigging and driving around. He was doing this and he was going nuts, and Paul Heyman was joining in, and then the boombox somehow magically started playing the New Day theme. It started playing Seth Rollins' theme, and then Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman were headbanging until, hilariously, Lesnar noticed Heyman doing it and just went, cut it out. It was absolutely wonderful and pissed Seth Rollins off so much, he just left the ring up. And because of that, Heyman and Lesnar decided, well, if you're just going to walk off, we're going to walk off as well, and we're not going to tell you who is going to be cashed in on. That left Kofi Kingston in the ring by himself, and surprise, surprise, he got attacked by Dolph Ziggler. Xavier Woods came out to try and stop the beating, but Ziggler was too good for him, so he started to beat up Xavier Woods for a little bit, and then Kofi Kingston came back limping because of the beating that Ziggler had already given him. If you think that was enough, you'd be right, but you'd also be wrong, because then we cut to a commercial, and Dolph Ziggler then came back out the entranceway, even though when he had left, he had gone through the crowd. That's like me doing this, and then just walking back from that direction. How does that add up? How does that make any sense? What, did Ziggler walk around the entire building just because he had some more stuff to say? Preposterous. Dolph then went on to say that he is going to win the belt at Super Showdown, or more specifically, he went like this. It should have been me. It will be me. It should have been me. It will be me. It should have been me. It will be, and so on and so on. Honestly, it went on for so long, I thought maybe I can reach into my head and rip out my brain, and therefore, even though I'm still watching it, I won't be processing the information. If you haven't worked it out, this was a down. We also learned at this point that later on in the evening, we are going to get a fatal 4-way elimination match, and the winner of that will be Seth Rollins' Universal Championship contender at Super Showdown. But somewhat upsettingly, AJ Styles had been announced for this earlier in the week, but as it turns out, he's got a proper injury and he's got to take some time off, so all the love to AJ Styles. I hope you get phenomenally better. Yeah, I know, I shouldn't have said it. We then cut backstage to our first skit of the Usos, who were holding a Memorial Day party. There's not really much to say about any of these, but here everybody was really happy and excited. The Revival aren't invited for obvious reasons, and EC3 sat there looking utterly miserable, which I'm going to guess reflects how he feels about his position in WWE currently. The show then got even odder because Shane McMahon announced that he was going to have a match and that Drew McIntyre was going to be by his side. They made their entrance, but then halfway through decided they weren't going to make their entrance. They turned around and they went back up the ramp, and disappeared. Then we got that overly long Triple H versus Randy Orton video that we also showed last week, and when we were done with that and back to the live show, Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre were just in the ring. What was going on? Shane then went on forever about how the McMahons and the Samoans have always had a mutual respect for each other, but Roman Reigns has ruined that after attacking Vince a couple of months ago. A segment, by the way, that now nobody cares about or remembers. They then brought out Shane's opponent. It's going to be Lance Anoa'i, who is Roman's cousin, and after Drew had beaten him up for a while, Shane got the win, and then Roman came out to chase them all off. It was weird that the big dog must have watched all of this and only at the end decided, oh, I should go out there and do something. And surprise, surprise, the crowd began chanting boring and rubbish during this match. And you know what? It's probably because it was really boring and it was really rubbish. Here's some exclusive footage of me watching it. Therefore, down. Brock and Heyman were back next, and from nowhere they've become like some Three Stooges act, even though there's only two of them, and when you do that, you get a damn up. They came out to reveal who was going to get cashed in on until Seth Rollins interrupted, because he wanted to tell the Beast, you are a shadow of your former self, and you're an absolute joke. And you are right, Seth, but I tell you, he's a fantastic joke, so I am absolutely okay with it. And then as Paul Heyman began to read out the terms of being the Money in the Bank champion, Lesnar turned and looked at him, took the contract, slapped it around Heyman's face, and was all like, what do you mean I got a year to cash it in? And Paul was like, yeah, you're the Money in the Bank. You get 12 months. He was like, well, if that's the case, I ain't going to do it now. Why the hell would I do that? And he left. Honestly, all of this was so well done. Again, it was pretty damn funny. And Brock looks like he's having the time of his life. And when Brock is having fun, somehow I have fun as well. Also, look at this situation like this. We were all a bit perturbed that Brock Lesnar had become the Money in the Bank champion. But this was the best way to salvage it, because clearly we're not doing Brock versus Seth Rollins at the Saudi show, meaning he can hold on to that briefcase and we can get an elongated story out of it. And that was always my worry. I thought he was going to win it in May, cash it in June, and that was that. What a waste of an entire pay-per-view. It's the best direction that we could have gone in after the fact, even if the original fact wasn't the greatest concept in the world. And of course, I hope that Brock turns up for more Raws than he used to. But even if he doesn't, at least it makes sense storyline-wise, because I can be like, oh, the looming spectre of Brock hangs over all of WWE, and he'll return whenever he sees fit. That is much better than, I'm the Universal Champion, screw your show, I'm sitting at home. We also then saw Truth and Carmella running away from the likes of EC3, the Good Brothers, Drake Maverick, and some other people were there as well. They were obviously chasing him down to try and win the 24/7 championship, and they did not. Baron Corbin also found AJ Styles backstage, who was talking about his injury, and slapped him around the face as retribution, because last week, AJ Styles slapped him around the face. I don't know why, but Nikki Cross and Becky Lynch were then teaming to take on and defeat the Iconics, who, don't forget, and if you have forgotten, you're perfectly allowed, because it's not like WWE shouts about it at all, but they are your women's tag team champions. And even more interestingly, Becky got the win over Peyton Royce, where she hit a new slam that is being called the Manhandle Slam. I'm alright with that, and this was okay, mostly because up to this point in the show, we were around about, an hour and 20, an hour 30, and this was only our second match, and our first had been Shane McMahon versus somebody we'd never even heard of. So I was just appreciative of getting some wrestling on my wrestling show. That's why I can get it up. Lacey Evans also came out afterwards, and she's gone back to her whole walk down the ramp, turn around, walk back up the ramp, which just screams of WWE having a lack of ideas, but whatever. I don't want to think about it. The Revival had then turned up to the Usos street party anyway, even though they hadn't been invited, and Naomi was like, I invited them because I want everyone to be friends. So the Usos and the Revival are like, cool, let's just be friends. Good message, I guess. And as you know, I cannot stand 50-50 booking, and that's why I was a little bit irked when I saw it was Cesaro versus Ricochet, which was only set up so that Ricochet could get his win back. But I can't worry about it anymore, because if I do, there is no possible way to enjoy WWE, and this match was so damn good, I don't want to crap over it in any sense possible. Give it up. It was just 10 minutes of amazing wrestling action, and the finish was really inventive. I'm not even sure I can explain it, because Ricochet was outside the ring and Cesaro was in the ring, and Cesaro had Rick hanging over the top, but then Ricochet used his ab power to sit up, so now he was on Cesaro's shoulders. He flipped around, basically did a Hurricane Rana roll-up pin, and surprised Cesaro for the finish. It looked absolutely brilliant, as did the uppercut, the Swift Superman hit on Ricochet, he punched him halfway across the ring. This made me so happy, I would have bled like, I don't know, what's a happy thing? Bunny rabbits. Bunny rabbits make people smile, I would have bled bunny rabbits. That's something you'd find on the Firefly Funhouse. Rey Mysterio is also going to have to relinquish the US title next week on Raw. He has suffered a legitimate injury, and they're obviously going to tie this into the storyline somehow. Sad face. And after that was announced, Samoa Joe came out and said that WWE had done the right thing, and he will be there on next week's Raw to ensure it all goes smoothly. We also found out that we're going to get some new electric chair segment and that Sami Zayn was the first guest. Now, we didn't get any information at this point, so it looked like WWE were going to electrocute Sami live on television. And I was all like, well, they do that to his character every week, so what's the difference? Back to the Memorial Day party, and fair play to the Usos, they are very entertaining. They were playing cornhole against the Revival, and when Jimmy and Jay won, they celebrated as if they'd become kings of the world. These little skits actually got better as the night went on, even though they were also pointless. Miz then cut a promo saying that he will become the #1 contender later when he is in the Fatal 4 elimination match, and revealed that him and Maurice are going to have a baby girl later in the year. Now, that was nice and it made everybody cheer, but the promo itself was just so I'm a babyface 101. Why can't we allow The Miz to be more creative like we used to do when he was a heel? This was really stilted, and that's why it's getting a down. Then, oh man, I don't think anybody was meant to be entertained by this in the way that I was, but hey, sometimes that just happens when it comes to my eyes and my face and everything that makes me up as a human being. But Braun Strowman was also doing an interview talking about this elimination match, which was about to go down. But you know how Braun does interviews, he just shouts. I'm going to show you, and you may want to turn volume down just a sec, but it's the only way I can do it justice. Because he literally went, Baron Corbin, Bobby Lashley, I am going to beat you up later. And Miz, I am really pleased that you and Maurice are having a baby girl. You deserve it. You're a lovely human being. And when he blurted out that last line, shouting in exactly the same cadence and intonation that he had done everything else, I was in tears of laughter. Tears. I don't think this was meant to be good. I don't even think this was meant to be bad. But boy, howdy, it could be the best thing I've ever seen on wrestling TV. Imagine you did that in the real world. Like you saddle up to work and someone's like, oh, hey Simon, how's it going? Oh, it's going really well. It was then this fatal four-way between Bobby Lashley, Baron Corbin, The Miz and Braun Strowman. And I tell you, if it hadn't have been for some dumb WCW crap booking, this would have been all right. But the match part still was alright, so that can get it up. They just put together a pretty decent match and of course kept clashing with one another. There was even a Tower of Doom spot where Braun took everyone and smashed them into the floor, and it reminded you that he's meant to be the monster among men. Don't forget that. That's his gimmick. Because right now, Strowman feels utterly lost in the shuffle. He's like a bag of guards. Corbin then hit the end of days on The Miz for the win, so he will be going on to face Seth Rollins at Super Showdown for the Universal title. Now you're probably going, but Simon, didn't WWE advertise this as an elimination match, and you've only told us about one elimination? Yes, friends. Yes, they did. Well, halfway through, Strowman and Lashley started to brawl through the fans, and they just left entirely because, you know, they're going to fight at the pay-per-view, and this is how WWE's building them up. And that was that. That was it. It was never explained where they'd gone, apart from when all was said and done, the commentary team went, oh, because they left, they must have eliminated themselves. But they didn't eliminate themselves because that announcement never happened. And also the only way they could eliminate themselves in what we've been presented is if this was via count out. But how can you have count outs in an elimination match? Well, I guess you could, but even still, nobody said that. So we just went, bah, I know he said elimination match, but let's just do it anyway. And if people care, well, we don't care, so who cares? I care. Wrestling nerd, I care. Down. Also, I really don't mind that it is Baron versus Seth in Saudi Arabia, because the plan at one point was to have an elongated program with both those two, and clearly we have changed tack. And thank goodness for that. Everything that happens at the Saudi Arabia shows are one and done, so we get it over and done with, and we can focus on something else. Good. Party time again, and now of course the Usos and the Revival had fallen out because Dawson had tried to cheat when they were playing cornhole. R-Truth then turned up, told everyone not to say that he was here, then a bunch of people tried to beat him for his 24/7 championship again. Like I said, all these things, they were fine, they were a nice segue, they broke up the pacing of Raw, but they didn't really do much. The Firefly Funhouse still rocks though. Give it an up. This week, Bray held a paper plate up to his face that had that mask drawn on it, and he started to refer to it as The Fiend. And as always, when he was doing this, it was just off-putting and terrifying and made you feel a little bit uncomfortable on the inside. That was the same for Abby the Witch, who spoke up and said that Bray Wyatt was a big old meanie. And then when Bray Wyatt dressed up as a doctor, he diagnosed Abby the Witch as being a giant bully. And the Witch was like, that's not true. I just don't like being stuck in limbo. That was a magic word of the day. So Bray Wyatt started playing limbo, but to get under the bar, he did that weird spider walk thing he did. His two kids looked on as if they'd rather be doing anything else. It was all really disturbing, as it should be, but I do hope he turns up on the show for real soon, because it just feels like it's time. But these are still some of the best things on Raw. And it's an up for our closing segment, even if it was absolutely bizarre, because the electric chair segment that we mentioned earlier is a chair that a WWE superstar sits in, and they have to answer questions from the audience, but they have to tell the truth. But they're not like plugged into anything. There's no lie detector test, so there is no way to know if said person is telling the truth or if not. So that's dumb. And I tell you, it's good that we put Sami Zayn in this position, because Sami Zayn can smash anything out the park. But anybody else, this will be an absolute disaster. Like I say, this one was okay, that's why it gets the up. Corey Graves was hosting, and fair play to Sami Zayn, who had a great rapport with the audience who were asking these questions. At one point, a little girl wanted to know more about his tag team with Becky Lynch that we did see during the Mixed Match Challenge, and when Sami misunderstood the question, she just went, duh. It was quite a funny and a good moment, mostly because of Zayn's facial expressions. He also talked to somebody else and asked if they were inbred, because they were in Kentucky. The highlight, though, was when Sami went off about how rubbish all these questions were, because they could ask him anything. They could ask him about his love life, they could ask him if he was a good kisser, and they could have even asked, wait for it, about AEW. That did draw a big response from the crowd. It drew an even bigger response on the internet, and I think that's why WWE did this. They ain't holding back. They ain't scared of no All Elite Wrestling. They're WWE. But it kind of did work, because now everyone's talking about Raw, kind of in the same way they were talking about Double or Nothing, although it's still pretty stupid because that's just free press. And I imagine some WWE fans knew nothing about All Elite Wrestling, and you just told them who they are. Of course, all of that was greenlit by WWE as well. There's all these conspiracy theories, even though they took it off the YouTube version. They probably took it off the YouTube version to create more conversation, and it absolutely works. So let's just enjoy it for what it is and move on. Anyway, Seth came out eventually to have a match with Sami Zayn, and I tell you, it was actually really good. It went a long time. Those two are amazing workers. There was some good near falls, and the finish was superb, because Sami Zayn was coming back from being on the outside. Seth noticed it from afar. He ran and he curb stomped him face into the mat, and once he'd recovered, because he was worn out from the beating he'd already received, he gave him another stomp, and he got the 1, 2, 3. They also played a whole narrative here about Seth's knee and it potentially being injured, and it was all just very well worked, very well sold. It made me very happy. So overall, it was an okay Raw, but as ever, they didn't plant any seeds to give you proper impetus to tune in next week, because that just never happens. I mean, I will watch and you will watch probably, because that's part of our routines, but we really need some more cliffhangers and storylines that point a big finger going, 7 days, everyone, 7 days. But look, because I laughed so much at Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman, and because I really did love that main event as well as Ricochet versus Cesaro, I'm going to give it an up overall, like I say. But yes, that is not saying this is perfect. And as a response to everything AEW did with Double or Nothing, I think WWE came out a little bit short. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's Raw. And I know you're just going to talk about WWE versus AEW, but that's okay. Like, share, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow when we up those downs for SmackDown.